Welcome to another one of these. My name is Austin York. You're obviously familiar with this guy. He's usually on this side of the table, but we've got such a great story that we want to tell from Dustin. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to dive into his life, an inspirational story that a lot of people get a lot of value from. And I don't necessarily know if you know that so much, but I was going to tell you that originally I heard about you from Bob and Kim Soller, and they run a little organization called Food for the Soul, a nonprofit that feeds hungry children here in North Texas. And that's one of the things that we don't often think about is that a lot of children in America are going hungry and basically have their last meal at, let's say, Friday lunch, and then they come to school on Monday morning. And so over the weekend, they eat very little, if anything at all. And so they've tried to do that. And they said, hey, you got to talk to this guy named Dustin. And Dustin's doing this Results Roofing, and he's got a great story. And we were going to have you on the podcast. Unfortunately, things got moved around and shifted. So here I am today.
Yeah.
And it was nice to actually meet you. Here we go.
Yeah, there we go. And hopefully to do some more. It's going to be great.
Absolutely. So one of the things that you've tried to do here, and as I understand it, is try to spotlight people and their stories. And you've got an incredible story. So why don't we just start from the beginning there? Talk a little bit about your home life when you were growing up and where you grew up and a little bit of the progression there.
Yeah, so ironic, I think the way, this is probably everything we do, but how met the Sawyers was, we were doing the roof, and we were doing it in my business partner's neighborhood.
Yeah.
And one of the guys was like, hey, man, this couple does incredible work. And this was obviously before, her
COVID
stuff.
COVID her stuff.
Yeah. So this was pre, and, in Keller, you're in a nice neighborhood, really nice neighborhood, and they give back to kids, and they do all this stuff. And so the employee actually didn't know my story. He was just telling me this, like, he was super excited when he heard Bob talking about they feed, hungry kids, and this is in Keller. And he was like, hey, man, I'm from Keller. I didn't know this was going on. And I'm like, hey, man, you'd be surprised. This goes on a lot more. And at the time, I hadn't met Bob.
Yeah.
He just gave me his card, and I said, man, went to go see where we lived, and they weren't home, but he just told me, hey, these kids are hungry in Keller. They're homeless. They don't have food, and they give – they've served all these meals. And I was like, hey, man, I was one of those kids. And he was kind of taken back. He's like, what? So, yeah, man, there was countless times, like, can't count. It wasn't like one time. It's, hundreds that I went to bed hungry, didn't have food. You'd come home, and there was nothing in the kitchen. Sometimes there wasn't even running water. There wasn't electricity. And so, let alone food, that was an afterthought sometimes. So,
and you grew up where?
I grew up right outside of Austin.
Okay, so this isn't an impoverished, Mexico or something like this. Is in the United States of America. I think people need to understand that.
Yeah, this is, right outside of Austin. If you're familiar now, small town, but Buda, Kyle area, San Marcos, that area. We lived in a rundown trailer, but, you'd come home and you'd be hungry and there wouldn't be food, right? And there was no food in sight. You'd go to school the next day to go eat. And I remember there was times I would like hoard the milks and try to take them home, or leftover food. But when he was telling me, I immediately got online and went and looked at their stuff, Food for Soul. I was like, man, these people are incredible. And so I reached out to Bob. I went by to talk to him. He wasn't home. And I reached out and just, hey, man, I just want to thank you for your business, and I just want to talk to you more about what you do. And so he started explaining it to me. I said, how can we help you? And he just said, oh, well, you can go online and donate. And, we take perishable items. This is what we do. And as he's telling me the story, it started triggering things. Like it was, oh
Memories,
my God, bad. So I was, man, I don't want a kid. So I went online, I donated some money, and I don't remember the dollar amount, but I was like, it's not good enough. Somebody's hungry right now, right?
Yeah.
So I went to Kroger, and I don't remember if it was $400 or $500, but I loaded up 2 baskets by myself and groceries, just everything I could from what he had told me, because they had their list online, and it was probably close to $500, and just went to their house, dropped it off the front porch, and took off. Didn't even say anything. I just left, and I guess, I don't know if it was on the doorbell camera or what, but of course they could see.
They saw you.
Yeah, they saw me, and he called me up and was like, hey, man, why'd you do this? And I said, well, I just appreciate what you do, and here's what I've been through. And he couldn't believe it. And so it kind of took off from there, and it just, I just remember those things, and it was so incredible to see somebody give everything they had to help people, because if it wasn't for people like that, I wouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. And they didn't that what kind of crazy to me is usually, like, you see people that want to give back have been through those challenges. They hadn't experienced that, right? They lived in a nice part of Keller. They grew up with, maybe not money. They weren't, but they weren't. Their kids weren't going to bed hungry. They weren't going to bed hungry. But yet these people dedicated their life to making sure kids, families had food.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to give back as much as possible. And so, we tried to help them in every way we can. We go to their events. We're going to one actually on Saturday, the 18th. They're doing another, food drive. I think 2 months ago they did one. Was it 2 months ago? Yeah, we did one where we were out there donating food again and handing out at the Ranger Stadium. So,
that's right. Yeah,
man, they do these things consistently, man. And they're such incredible people, and to know what they're going through personally with their, their fight and with the things that they're having to deal with inside their family, but to still just. You would never
keep on trucking.
Hey, man, I'm going through this life-threatening situation, but don't look at me. Let's go help these people. And so that's how we met them. And then they, hey, you got to meet this guy. And so that's how we met. So kind of crazy how the story got us here.
And I want to bring it back to you. And one of the things that Bob often talks about is that when kids go hungry, this is what hurts them in their school performance. They go in, how can you pay attention to a teacher if you haven't eaten in forever? Were you labeled a problem child or a bad student just because, hey, man, I can't think right now. I need something to eat. Did that happen to you?
It happened a lot. And, it was probably a compound effect of, bad parenting, which I guess can go with being hungry, but it was you were hungry, right? And then school was almost an outlet for me. And so it was, you didn't get maybe a lot of attention at home too. So you were maybe acting out to get attention, but you would go to school hungry. And then the flip side was, so you got free lunch or free food, right? So you'd get there, but then sometimes I remember there was a few times you'd be embarrassed to go try to get food because you had a free lunch, right? And it was like, you had to go with a special card and, oh, hey, here's me. Why don't you highlight that? Not only I'm poor, I'm hungry, and I don't have food possibly. That's what I thought, people thought of me. So it was
instead
tough.
of bringing your lunches with the nice sandwiches and everything like that.
Yeah, and then if you didn't, like when, there's at times that they'd give you like a bag lunch. So it was even worse because you didn't even get the real lunch. Like you'd go through the line and get the tray and they'd give you the pizza or whatever. You would get a bag lunch because it was free. And it was embarrassing. I remember days I didn't want to eat that. So I was like, I'm not going to eat that because I was embarrassed. And you're a kid. You didn't know. You didn't know any different. I'm a young kid. I had no idea what was going on. And it causes you to act out. You can't focus in school. And I remember it was labeled ADD, ADD. That's what you had. You just can't pay attention, which partly I was super hyper naturally. But it took a lot of, it took a lot away from your focus wasn't on school. It was on when I'm going to eat. When am I going to get that next food? And when is that going to happen? And you were grateful when it did happen. You were grateful when you could go to a friend's house, but you didn't know when it was going to happen again. Yeah.
Talk about your parents. I know this is might be a weird subject for you, but why was the dynamic in the house so bad? And what were they doing to contribute to that?
So I don't know my real dad. I still don't know his name to this day. I literally have no idea who he is, what his name is. I'll tell you, just kind of maybe this would be the summarization of it. My mom told me that another man was my father, and up until I was like 32, 33 years old.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that he wasn't my father. And so to the point where we're at my grandparents one day and somebody made up a comment and my wife was like, oh, Dustin's dad, my wife. And they're like, no, that's not his dad. And she was like, no, I think that's his dad. No. His mom found out like when he was like 16 when they had a paternity test. It wasn't his dad. Wow. But she told me for years that was my father and, he was off in prison or whatever. So my stepdad, at the time was heavily involved in drugs when we were younger. My mother heavily involved in drugs. Like when we'd come home, at the time you didn't know, but you'd find needles. You'd find the aluminum foil. You'd find drugs and hide them everywhere. And, they'd go missing for days at a time. So it'd be like weird. And again, I'm talking somewhere between maybe I'm 7 to 12 years old. You'd come home and you wouldn't see your mom or dad. And I call my stepdad dad. You wouldn't see him for days, like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days at a time. So you'd get up and go to school, and come home, and hey, where they at? And wouldn't see them, wouldn't hear from them. You know, I'm 37, so this is, you know, obviously 20
Well
plus.
before cell phones and
No
anything
cell phones.
like that.
Yeah. So of course, sometimes we didn't have electricity or water, so we wouldn't have a home phone, right? So you would come home and go to school, and they might be there for a week or two, and then disappear for 3 or 4 days, and they might come home for a day or two and disappear for a day. There was people in and out of the house. You know, it was alcohol, drugs, you know, abuse. It was like you said the wrong thing, you did the wrong thing, looked the wrong way, you got, you know, hit, punched. You know, just you. I guess you knew what was going on, but you didn't. You weren't, you know, street smart. But you're like, that's not normal. Like, my friends' parents don't do that. My friends' parents aren't just gone for days at a time and living in this. I mean, we lived in a rundown trailer, it was a single wide trailer. You know, holes in the wall, holes in the floor. I remember there was one point there was a hole in my floor where I could like crawl out and go outside.
Yeah.
And one day I came home and there was like a fucking possum in there, and I freaked out, or some like a nutrient, like field rat.
Yeah.
I freaked out. And so I remember putting like a board and a mattress over it because I thought it was cool at first until obviously something came in.
Yeah,
right?
some come in. Yeah.
Let's sneak away. And so, you know, there was no fatherly figure.
Mm-hmm.
There was no motherly instinct or love. And so I didn't feel those things. And so, you know, like, my grandparents were really great, and I got really close with them later on in life, but a lot of times we weren't allowed over there, or we weren't involved in those things because of what the stuff my mom and dad did. They would steal from the family. I mean, just crazy shit. And it was that.
So the rest of the family was taking it out on you because of their influence.
Yeah,
and their actions to the rest of the family.
Yeah, so when you're 10 years old, you don't go to your grandparents' house because your mom and stepdad aren't allowed, right?
Yeah, I might jack something.
Yeah, and I remember coming home sometimes. I remember one time like sleeping outside on the front porch, sleeping in like the truck because my stepdad like beat the shit out of my mom to where go to the hospital. We thought she would be dead. Like, it was literally like, oh my God, this is the night. Like, we're gonna go to sleep and wake up, and mom's gonna be dead. Like, I remember one time, my baby brother, 6 years younger than me, was like, "Is mommy alive?" Like, I was tough, man. It was brutal, and so I don't think you realize the effects those have on your life truly until you have kids, and you start thinking, "Oh my God, like what?" You know, there's a lot of times, man, it's why me? Why did that happen to me during the moments? And it was, you know, it's tough. I held a lot of grudges towards my mom because of it for years, and it caused a lot of pain because I hated her for what she did. Finally, I realized, you know, she was the best mom of her ability, and it, you know, it wasn't her fault, and, you know, I can't hold that against her. She did the best job she could, right? And that was the best job she could do, right? And I had to let go of those feelings because why was I going to let that hold me back from my life? Because I did for a long time. I did. I acted out. I lashed out even into my, you know, 20s into close to being 30. You didn't know how to act. You didn't know how to react to your own feelings because you saw that if somebody doesn't do what you said, acts the way you want, you can just lash out. And that's okay. You can disappear on people for days and, you know, disappear forever.
Skirt responsibility and everything.
Yeah. So we did. I did for a long time.
So let's go through the teenage years. You make it through high school. Did you immediately say, "Hey man, I'm getting out of this house. When I'm 18, I'm getting out"? What happened 18 to maybe what you would typically do the college years, I guess, for a lot of people?
14, I left the home.
Oh, okay.
I took off when I was 14.
Where'd you end up?
Nowhere. I didn't have a place to live. And, you know, a lot of my family knows about this now and like, oh, you know, had a place to go and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I think at some point going through your head, that's not what's going through your head. It's like, this situation's so bad that I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with this. And so, you know, at 14, it was in high school and I just took off. I was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want nothing to do this. And it was weird because like I would get in contact with my mom every once in a while. I was like, oh, where are you staying? It was like a friend's house. And I would just try to bounce around from couch to couch. Like I knew something in my body told me I didn't want to be like this. And I took off. I remember at 14. And I remember for a couple months I could get away from, I would sleep at friend's house. And it might be for a couple days, right? Sleep on a couch. Oh, I'm staying at my friend's house, whatever. Sneak in. I remember a few times I'd sleep like on the back porch. I get friends that have like a gazebo. You sleep on the back porch. But I remember one night in particular, I was at a buddy's house, man. It was like 10:30 at night. And I was in Buda, which Buda, Kyle were miles apart, and it was close to like downtown. And his mom comes in the room, and we're sitting there. She's like, "What are you still doing here? It's a school night." And she had no idea, right? It wasn't her. was like, oh, just hanging out, she's like, you can't stay here, it's a school night. And I was like, oh, it got late, and I didn't want to walk home, and I was just gonna sleep here. She's like, no, you can't stay night on school night, you got to get home. Like, I was like, oh, no, oh shit, don't let
make me go there. Yeah.
And she was like, oh, you got to go. And I was like, okay, I got to go. And there's no cell phones, and I didn't know where I was going to go. And so I was like, okay, how do I get to school tomorrow? All right, well, I could take the bus. And so probably 3 to 4 miles away, there was a park, and right by there was a bus stop. They'd pick a bunch of kids up. And I remember I just slept in the park. And I remember going to sleep. It was on a park bench, and I remember just sleeping on a park bench. And I remember being hungry that night. I was 14. I specifically remember that night because I was sleeping under this like kind of playscape in a park bench at 14 years old, and was like, man, I don't want this to be my life. I don't want this to be my life.
14, you made that decision. Yeah.
I didn't. And it's not like it was an easy road, obviously, from there.
No.
It was an uphill battle, and a lot of the decisions I made were my own stupid decisions. But I knew right then, I was like, man, I don't like this life. I don't want a part of this. I remember crying. I remember I was scared. I remember I was angry. Why am I hungry? Why am I sleeping here? Why me? Why all this? I'd been through all these trials and tribulations, and I had just gone through a tragic, like, horrible death. So my older brother, he was a cousin, but he was like my brother. He lived with us, was the one guy that protected me my whole life.
Yeah. Kind
of shielded me from my parents. When we were hungry, I remember this guy going out and getting food. I don't know where he got it from, but he got it, right? Like, it was real stuff. And he killed himself when I was 13. So the one guy that I was like close to, who was my guy, took care of me, he killed himself.
Suicide.
And I was like, oh my God, like, is our life really that bad? Where you want to take your own life? And I can't say that there's times that I didn't think about that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, why did he leave? Like, this is crazy. And that was a pretty downhill spiral for me. That was still to this day affects me tragically. It hurts. There's, certain songs come on and I start crying my eyes out. It happens. And he was gone. So it was like, I felt like I had nothing. So I just something kept telling me I didn't want to live this life. And then there was a few friends that actually through high school, I was lucky. They let me live in their home. One guy I lived with for, I think, my senior year or, junior year. So I got to make it by for probably 6 months to 12 months. And then, for about 8 months to a year, I lived with somebody. 8 months to a year, I lived with somebody. So I was able to, but I was a train wreck, not going to school. It took me 5 years to graduate. Like, literally, I'm like, I laugh, and I'm like, I was like a redshirt freshman in high school. It took me 5 years to graduate high school because I didn't go. And probably some of the stuff you said, I was, drinking, partying, like I was, staying out all night, just being that guy. Mm-hmm. And so
after high school, you move on. What happens after high school, and what brings you to your situation you're in now? I know there's probably a lot of story and a lot in between that dash.
Yep.
But if you could, what happened?
Yeah, so I got a couple jobs like mowing lawns after high school. I think I had one bartending, typical, and I was doing some other stuff that I probably shouldn't have been doing. But the one kind of thing that I think really changed my life was I got a job at 24 Hour Fitness in the fitness industry. Yeah. I actually worked in the fitness industry for 15, 16 years. It had a lot to do with changing my life. I learned so much about life, leadership, growing up. A lot of the father figures and mentors all were from there, right? Those are the guys I met. So that was my career. Still I lost jobs. I, didn't get promotions because I was, I'd act out, wouldn't listen, and
attitude, everything.
Yeah. Attitude, didn't know how to act, didn't know how to play that. Ironically, worked my way up, in the fitness industry, had a lot of success, made more money than I would do it, and really started to take me out of that. There was a point though, probably 4 or 5 years in. I was 19 when I got that job. About 4 or 5 years, I was doing really well, and I got popped for a DWI, and then got popped for another one, like within like a month. Yeah. And we were talking about it earlier in Austin and Williams County, and it costed me a career, costed me my home, and costed me everything I'd worked to get out of. Yeah. And ironically, I think that was one of the best things
that ever happened to you. That happens. Yeah.
It was like, oh man, I'm going to work so hard to get out of that situation. And then I worked so hard to put myself right back into it, and then I lost it all. And I remember there was a point where I had to sleep in my car again for 30 days. I was like, man, fuck this. I'm never going to be here again. Like, you're an idiot. Like, you're a hypocrite. You went through all this stuff, and then you did this. And so, ironically, worked in the fitness industry, and then met my wife. And, hey, my wife should have never stayed with me. I was, same thing, pushed her away, pushed people away. It's how it was.
Had that shield, and that's you can imagine all the pain that you went through. You didn't want to have anyone close to you because you didn't know what love, you didn't know that connection and what it could be like.
And I had no idea. So how the hell was I ever? And it was weird. The day I met my wife, I knew I was going to marry her. And,
okay.
Yeah, I told her.
Does she know that?
Yeah, she did. I told her, and I was like, I'm going to marry you, and here we are. And she should have never stayed. She should have left, but she did. She saw something in me. And the day that I saw, it was weird. And I say this, and I try not to get it to people that, they take it, sometimes people can take it the wrong way. I didn't really feel much when my wife was pregnant. It was cool. I was like, oh, that's my child. When I saw her holding my son,
oh wow,
my life changed.
Yeah, and that's not weird. I've heard that before. I don't have a kid, but I've heard that from a lot of people that when they actually, the pregnancy thing, the announcement of it, that's nice and they feel good.
Yeah.
When you get closer to it, it becomes a little bit more real. But when that child is in the arms, when you see that child, it's like you can't keep your eyes off it. It's just like that's when it hits you.
Yeah, I was scared that I didn't know what kind of father I was going to be. That was probably the thing that maybe frightened me the most was here. I didn't have a father. Yeah. Then the one that I had, stepdad was, just terrible. And here I was setting myself up, had a career, but wasn't where I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to have this child. The hell was I thinking? And, I don't think you're ever ready, but, I wasn't ready. And then I got scared, like, am I going to do those same mistakes that I did? Mm-hmm. And the day that I saw my wife holding my kid, it was like, I just remember it. Like I remember the sequence of the whole time where the emergency C-section, and I can remember everything that happened. And I just remember he was over here screaming, she's over here cut open. And they're yelling at me because she was behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. And I'm not supposed to be on this side, but I'm over there. Yeah. And I grabbed my kid. Uh-huh. And they're like, put him down. And I was like, I wanted to grab him and get to her. And I just remember getting him to her. And I just remember seeing that. And it's in my mind forever. Like I could she was just holding him. And I was like, this is it. Like, this is what life was.
There's that fork in the road and you go that way.
I was like, I don't care what happens. I don't care what goes on. This is it. This is my world. This is it. And I just remember seeing it, and I was just lost. And when I held him, I probably cried for about 45 minutes to an hour straight. And I just remember the nurse saying, she was an older nurse. She was, you've experienced a lot of pain. Yeah. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, it feels good. And I just remember like feeling this pain leaving my body, like all this shit that I'd been through. I was like, oh, it's leaving. And it was just letting it go, right? And it still affects me time to time, but it's like it was going away. And I was like, all this doesn't matter. This is what matters now. And it's not about me anymore. And I think the mindset was, why did this happen to me? Mm-hmm. Why go through this? And then it realized this isn't about me anymore. This is about them. That's it.
Yep. Your priorities changed completely. Yeah. The selfishness gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Now Results Roofing. This has become something now. How did it start? How did you get into this thing? And where are you at now? So let's start from the beginning, I guess.
Yeah. So I was in the fitness industry, became like a managing partner, the president of a company in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And the owner owned a bunch of things, bunch of gyms, and I was running the show. So we were living in Detroit, Michigan at the time, or Troy, just right outside Detroit. And wife was stay-at-home mom. We had the little one. Running the fitness industry, making the most money we've ever made. And he owned a roofing company, and that's where all of his money and success came from. And this guy knew everybody in Detroit, was doing just amazing things. And I actually really looked up to this guy. It was probably the first owner that I ever had. I was like, wow, I see a lot of myself in this guy, just the resilience and the persistence and the stories. And something just clicked. And I would, talk to him about roofing, and I'd see the roofing, and it just kind of intrigued me a little bit. And then I saw all these people from the fitness industry going into roofing, and guys that I knew that I was their boss or better than, no disrespect to them, They were owning.
Absolutely, I get it. Yeah, they're having more success, and you're like, what?
How?
Yeah,
What?
That guy's an idiot.
What happened? And so one day I tell my wife, I don't want to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's talk about it. And I'm like, okay. And I go to the office and put in my notice.
Yeah, talk about it. I'm done.
Yeah. What are we going to do? And I say, hey, I'm going to help him out. I'm going to continue to help out my old boss, for the 2 weeks, month, whatever it is. And what are we going to do? I don't know. Let's get home. And we loved Michigan. It was great, but it was too cold.
Yeah.
And Dallas for us was home. And that's where we wanted to be. My wife was flying back to see family. She was bringing the kid back. And it was just hard for me to be away from them. It really was. And so I was like, we need to get back home first. Like, let's get home. All this other stuff doesn't matter. The money doesn't matter. None of that matters. I just realized that I want to create a legacy for my family. And a buddy reaches out, ironically, and says, hey, man, do you know anybody? Because I made a post for another friend looking for somebody in the fitness industry. And he said, do you know anybody looking for a sales manager? I said, for what kind of industry? He said, roofing. And I said, okay, hey, man, let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So we get on the horn, and we make the decision to come down and spend the week. We come spend the week. I fall in love with roofing. So weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Roofing. Never. And here's the ironic thing. I was deathly afraid of heights, and I still am.
And you go on the roof.
I go on the roof. When I say deathly afraid of heights, I'm the guy that gets to a certain point, and I start getting wobbles.
Yeah.
The first roof I ever tried to get on, I got to the ladder, and I was shaking, and it was hitting the gutters just.
It's denting the gutters.
And I got down. I wouldn't get on the roof. I would not get on. So I'm like, I'm going to do this. So I get into roofing, and I was working for him for a few months, and, great guy, great organization. Just we didn't align on what we wanted the end goal. And I just had this, I'm a hypocrite because I keep trying to push my goals and dreams through other people.
Yeah.
Why? Go open your own stuff. So I decided that I was going to open my own. Like, you know what? I'm going to do this. And I had the opportunity and talked to a few people that wanted to be a part of it as business partners that I trusted for years. I was prepared to do it on my own. I was going to do it on my own. And so one day I'm like, we're going to do this. This is going to happen. So one day we're driving. And what was so strange is when you're on Facebook and the memories pop up, you get memories 7-8 years ago. This one word kept popping up, and everything I posted, results. And it was weird because it was like, oh, let's do a podcast, let's get results. Hey, take care of your kids, you got to get them results. Nothing in life matters but getting results. Effort doesn't matter, you got to get results. It was. You got to get results, everything, life, friendship, family, it all boils down to getting results. You can have your intentions, yes, they always need to be good, but if you don't get results, it really doesn't matter. Mm. And I'm driving, talking to my wife on the phone, and I don't even remember what we were talking about. And in my head, results roofing. And I go, I got to go, I got it. She's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I got to go. I pull over the car. I'm on 114 right there by the airport. Yeah. I pull over on the side of the road, dangerous move, get out. I remember getting my sketch, and I started writing down RR. And it first started kind of the Rolls-Royce logo.
Yeah, with the R underneath. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, no, I don't like that. And then it was like, okay. And then, oh, my God, it's it. Reverse RR, results roofing. Let's do it. She's calling me. What is going on? Did you get in a wreck? I'm like, no, results roofing. I got it. And she's like, what do you mean results roofing? I'm like, she's like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, no, I got it. And that was the day it was born. It was like results roofing. Okay, had this reverse R. Let's clean it up. Let's do results roofing. And why? We want to get results for everyone. Results for not only, ourselves, we want to get results around everyone around me. And I firmly believe that when you want to hit your goals and dreams, you gotta help everyone around you hit their goals and dreams first, and then yours will happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, results for our staff, results for their family, results for our family, results for our customers. Let's get results for everyone. And that's where results roofing will come from. And so we started, and it's funny when you circle back. We started in November of 19, okay? Mm-hmm. We start results roofing, and we get this shared office. It's run down. We sublease it. Our office is like the size of this, so it's like an 8x10.
Yeah.
Holes in the wall. They patched them with plywood.
All right, hey,
we're starting.
The hole's fixed.
Yeah, there you go. We had they left a couch. It was like a Craigslist casting couch.
Oh,
didn't want to sit on it.
Yeah, don't sit and burn it.
Yeah. First day of work, we have like 2 employees, and one was on vacation because we weren't going to start it till like January or February. We decided let's start it early. So he was on vacation. to go before we started the company, but we did, so no fault to him. And I took my son with me. And so, he was like, my son's like 2 at the time. And he's sitting there, and we got Chick-fil-A, and we're sitting in this little makeshift chair. We didn't even have matching chairs. Desks were horrible. And I just remember, we don't have any customers. We don't have a website.
Yeah, we have nothing.
Nothing. We didn't have a Facebook page. We didn't have business cards. We didn't have flyers. We had some shirts that we got made with the logo before because they were test run, so they weren't even our real ones. We had a couple polos, a couple hats. That was it. We had nothing. Like, our website wasn't up. We had no videos. We had no customers. We had a CRM that we'd purchased before, but we literally had nothing. Like, there was zero. And I was like, what do I do? Because everywhere I'd worked, it was,
it's not already set up for you. Yeah.
Oh,
you just come in and go.
You just go. And I remember talking to Connor's my son's name, and I was like, Connor, what are we going to do today? Because I just tell him, he goes, let's go work, Dad. And I was like, because he went with me at my previous job. So we would go, he'd go roofing with me. And so he'd always, let's go to work, Dad. So that was what he knew. And it was crazy because the reason I had him with me is, if you back up, when I started roofing, I didn't have a lot of success at first, which was even worse. So about 3-4 months in, my wife has to go back to work. I was devastated because I promised her this life to be a stay-at-home mom if she wanted to do that, take care of our kid. And then 3 or 4 months in, we can't pay our bills. We're driving Uber Eats to eat, like literally driving Uber Eats to have money to eat.
Yeah.
The next month, we didn't have any money to pay our bills. My wife's having to go back to work. Where's the kid going to go? Because we didn't have enough money to pay for daycare. Yeah. So he started going to work with me. So he'd go to work with me every day. And I had to man up and say, my kid's watching me. I got to model this.
Yes. You got to be the behavior that you want him to be. Yes.
And I'm going to go home and tell him, hey, I'm sorry, Connor. You can't eat like I couldn't because Daddy's a wimp. Daddy couldn't take it. Daddy got tired of being told no. Daddy just was scared to be successful. So it's okay, man. You're going to have to go through the life I promised you I'd never give you because Daddy failed. And I was like, that's not an option. And now my wife's having to go back to work. I'm on the verge of doing everything that I said I'd never do in my life. And I was like, let's go figure this out. Like, okay, people are going to tell me no. And in roofing, you get, you have to go door knock a lot. And,
oh, yeah.
And you get fuck yous, you die, yeah. People had guns pulled on them. I mean, it's real. You don't think it is, but it happens. And so they'll eat you alive. And if you don't, in DFW, homeowners know a lot about the process because they've been through it with all the hailstorms.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And
bad weather.
Yeah, and they people would be mean to you, and they tell you get off the porch. And so when you're new and you've had all this success in the fitness industry and you've been phenomenal, you come over to roofing, you get no training, you don't know what you're doing. People can see through that, and then you look like the Chuck in the truck. Yeah. And I remember people, one guy was like, you're probably delivering pizzas, and now you're a hailstorm, you're a roofer.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was driving Uber Eats. And so, it
hit you. He was right.
Yeah. I was like, fuck, this dude
knows. This guy.
Yeah. And
how did he know?
Yeah. I was like, did I have it on? This was in my window. And I went through all that, and it was tough. And I was like, I can't tell my kid that I'm going to do that. And that was kind of the switch that ignited it. It was like, my wife's going back to work. I failed my family. Now what? Like, what are you going to do about it? Like, you're going to be a victim, you're going to be a victor and go figure it out.
Or you get results.
Yeah. And so when we were sitting there that day, it was day one. He goes, Dad, let's just go to work. I was like, he's so right. Like, yeah, let's go to work, Connor. And we went to work. And, hey, man, I would take my kid and go door knock with me. And we'd go, hey, and you're like, oh, you can't say no to him. Yeah. And that's how it started. And then, hey, we started with 1-2 employees, and we started with 5, and then we were at 10. 15, and now you fast forward, we're almost 2 years in at the end of November, and we're 50 with 2 markets, and
excellent.
We just opened Results PDR for your car, so now it's like you saw this opportunity.
Yeah, dents. Talk a little bit about that. How did you go into that? The dent repairs.
Yeah. So you had 2 guys that I've known for a while, and they actually would refer roofs to us, and we'd refer cars to them. Just great kids, man. I saw a lot of myself in them, and their hunger and their hustle. And it's like, man, these kids just need an opportunity, right? Like, they need a mentorship, they need a leadership, they need what I needed, 10 years ago. Just somebody there to give them an opportunity, and somebody's going to give them an opportunity, or they're going to create their own like I did. And I want to be a part of that opportunity, not because of the money, because of the legacy. Like, these guys are going to be great. and we were sending them cars, and the day that I knew that I was going to be business partners with them was I sent them a friend of mine. They were doing his car, and we were going somewhere that night with him. I'm like, man, I know this car. I'm like, hey, man, whose car is this? Like, this isn't yours. Did you get this? He's like, oh, it's the rental. And I remember seeing something in there, and I'm like, hey, so I texted him. I'm like, hey, bro, did you give so-and-so your car? He's like, yeah, we ran out of rentals. And I didn't want him to have a car for the weekend.
Oh, wow. So he gave him his own car?
His personal car. And I was like, what? Who does? So you don't have a car. No. Well, I have me and my wife. Okay, but you don't have a car, and you gave a customer your car so he wouldn't be without for the weekend. That's the type of stuff we do here. And I knew at that point, I'm like, hey, man, these guys are going to be my business partners.
These guys are legit.
Yeah. And so why not offer? If your home got hit, your car probably got hit if you didn't have it in the garage. And so it was kind of a direct of what we did. And so, Results Painless Dent Repair was born. We wanted to keep the name Results in it to deliver the same, results and keep it under the family and under the umbrella. And so here we are. We're literally in the infant stages. Like we're just getting the lease done this week. Got the name, getting the website. So this is now just being born to where Results Painless Dent Repair will be here. So we'll have both companies under the same family.
That's amazing. And one of the things that's so amazing about your story, and I'm just sitting here listening to it really for the first time, is that how much you're able to talk about it. You've dealt with it. You talk about it in a very black and white sense, and you move forward. Nothing ever. Now, yeah, you had some stumbles, but we all have stumbles. But you're still here today through hard work and perseverance. I wanted to ask you real quickly about your mother. How is your relationship with her today? How's your relationship with your stepfather, the guy that you called your father?
I don't talk to either.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we tried to bring him back into life for the kid when my son was born. It just didn't work out.
Is she still in the kind of lifestyles?
Yeah, still had some demons, and I couldn't bring that into my what I realize now is I do remember the bad times, and a lot of people don't dwell in the past, and you can't dwell in the past, but I can remember the bad times, so I never go back. And but I've also you really are who you surround yourself with, because you attract who you are. And if you say, well, I was there, that person was there because they were my mother or my best friend, or I knew them from 15 years ago, and you allow them in their life and you allow those excuses, you're just allowing for anyone like that to be in your life.
You're opening the door.
You are
for more,
and it's mentally draining. Like negativity, and it's mentally draining. It's like the cliche is one bad apple ruins a whole bunch. If you have an apple that has rot in it and you put it against 10 new good apples are touching it, it ruins all 10 good apples.
Yeah,
and it's true. You can't let yourself. If you and I met a stranger and we're at a bar and we're talking and you're like, hey man, how you doing? I go, terrible. Why? Fucking life sucks. You're like,
shots. Ugh.
You wouldn't be friends with that person. So why would you? And I'm not saying that people can't have bad days, but why would you have that person in your life? Like,
constant negativity, yes.
Constant. So you can't. And I couldn't allow myself. I just don't want to be surrounded by people like that. And I just got to the point where I know what makes me happy. It's my family. Building. I love the opportunity to provide for others. Like for me, the ultimate catalyst for the Results brand is it allows me to, like we talked about, a showcase for other people, even on the podcast, right? And to make financial gain for other people to be able to support their families. Like when we have, call it 10 people that work here now that have made the most money of their lives and are able to do things for their family that they could never do before or themselves, that is my ultimate goal. Like my family's taken care of, and I'm always going to make sure they're taken care of. And we get to do things that we never dreamed of, and I love that, and that's fine, and that's great, and that's going to be there. But take my family out of it, because that's the only thing in the world that could ever, hurt me or do anything. Take that out of there. But outside of that, if you said, hey, man, let's go to the happy hour with the homies. Hey, man, I'd rather work on Results Roofing to help build something for these people around me. That's my hobby. Like, I like to do things, but every time I do other things, I'm like, this is my hobby. I'd rather work on this, work on that. And the people
You found something that you're passionate about.
And it's the people around my business partners, like seeing them grow, seeing us grow together, seeing us do all these things. We've expanded in multiple businesses now, like with the Houston market. We have an additional partner down there. Watching these people become family, and it's for me, it's not work-life balance, it's work-life integration. And we've all integrated our work and family, like we have it together. And so I love that. And that's what this is, it to me, is being able to provide for my family and for everyone else's. And that's why I do this, and that's why I take so much passion in doing it. It's like, people are like, well, don't you think you need to follow your passion? No, man, like, let your passion follow you, and you can take it into what you do. I didn't have a passion for roofing. What?
And you fell in love with it.
I fell in love with it because it allowed me to help people. When you saw, you truly got to help someone because, you overcome some serious things when chucking the trucks or bad roofers, homeowners getting taken advantage of, which is terrible. But when you can provide a great service, or when something goes wrong and you can make sure you correct it and do what opposite of what they thought was going to happen, it's the best feeling in the world. Seeing these people around us, it's the best feeling in the world, and that's why I'm so passionate about continuing to do this. And, my kid was with me at work yesterday. I love that. It's like, yeah, let's roof. Oh, you got it, man. Let's go.
It truly is an American success story, and it's something. It's really inspirational to look at you and just say, and you can see it when you're talking to me. It's not about, well, I'm making a lot of money, man. Yeah. It's about, I'm really truly passionate about helping other people get those results. Here's a guy that was like me who didn't have a lot, and man, I'm going to help him out when I can. And now this guy is being able to do something. That's really what it comes down to. I've always said it's the old biblical thing. It's better to give than receive, and that's definitely something that you're playing out in your life. And so it's absolutely amazing. And I just hope I can be a part of it in the future.
Absolutely.
And mine again. I guess we can put a bow on this thing, but. My name is Austin York. This is Dustin, and hopefully you continue to keep watching us here on Results Roofing. And if you ever have any any needs for any kind of roofing, you know where to call the RR Results Roofing.
Oh, man, thank you.
Got it.